This is a podcast by the News Minute, and you are listening to South Central.
Hello and welcome to South Central, a TNM podcast where we put the South at the center. I am Dhanya Rajendran, your host. South Central is a show that drops every Friday. We look at the top headlines from southern India, then we do a deep delve into two topics. In this week's episode, we look at the Prajwal Revanna judgment and why it's a milestone. We then look at the controversies around the National Award and ask the question, has the National Award lost its credibility and relevance? So someone who listens to South Central told me the other day that you make this very passionate appeal that everybody should follow us on Spotify. I'm making that again because despite my passionate appeal, I don't see those likes going up. So go to Spotify, like South Central. And Spotify apparently allows you to like something only if you listen to it for some 5-6 minutes, like a trick. So you have to listen to 5 minutes.
Well, at least we know that people are not simply liking it.
Yeah, I don't mind either.
Exactly.
Yeah. So go like it on Spotify, on Apple and other podcasts. And today joining me in the studio is co-host Pooja Prasanna, who's back from her second trip to Dharmastala.
Yes.
Far away in Kerala is Leena Reghunath, investigative journalist and lawyer. Leena?
Hi, Dhanya. Today is a rain holiday in Kerala, but there is not a single drop of rain outside.
Well, and dressed like Leena's twin in the studio is Anisha Sheth, the Karnataka bureau chief of the News Minute. Hello, Anisha.
Hello.
Okay. So last week I began South Central by telling you that we have been named in a gag order which was secured by Dharmastala Temple Dharmadhikari Birendra Hegde's brother Harshendra Kumar. It is a John Doe order against almost 388 publications, individuals, etc. And I told you that we will move against the legal order. We have done that. We have filed 2 writ petitions in the Karnataka High Court. It will be taken up on Monday and we are hoping we will get some relief because already there's been one order from the High Court in the case filed by another, I think, YouTube page called Kudla Rampage. The only problem is that every person named the John Doe order will have to separately go because it does not look like the court is going to give relief for everyone together. They're only going to give to the petitioners. So to all those who have been listening and watching our coverage, which has been led by Pooja, Anisha and Shivani Kawa, thank you very much. We have so many people writing to us, DMing us and also contributing to our reporting fund. Please don't stop with that because now, of course, we need help from our lawyers. Also, we have to pursue this for some time. So it'll be very, very nice if you haven't already, to become a subscriber of the News Minute. The QR code is on the side, or you can contribute to the reporting fund. And I just want to make a small point. Maybe Pooja or Anisha, you can chip in. So a lot of people are like, oh, have the skeletons not been found? Only 2 or 3 or whatever have been found. But see, we didn't cover Dharmastala from last week or 2 weeks ago. We have been covering this for many years and we ourselves have got gag orders around 2 years ago, or at least they tried to make us a party to the gag order. The point is, we have insisted from the beginning, no matter what the whistleblower is saying, whether it is true, false, half true, quarter true, the point is the place does have a murky history and there are lots of things unexplained. This just became a window to ask those questions again, right? Almost.
Yes. And over the next couple of days, we are going to be looking at stuff, material that we have, and we're going to sit and figure out how much of it we are going to be able to take forward and so on. So, I mean, when I used to report from Mangalore about 10 years ago, 12 years ago, there's so many stories that we'd heard, right? But there was nobody willing to take them up. Like there was this one instance I remember of, a stone quarry which is being run over there, and nobody would report it because the license holder was somebody from the Hegde family. And I was one of 2 journalists who reported on that case. And it was a fun time to do those stories.
But those stories still there. You speak of what happened 12 years ago, right? But even now, there are people who are telling us about land grab, power grab, people being subjected to all sorts of horrifying things simply because they dare to just stand up, not even question, For me, Dhanya, like you said, yes, what's happening there is important, whether they find skeletons, but what would it eventually achieve? Will they be able to identify who those people are, why they were killed, who killed them? I don't know.
I think that's all far off.
Exactly,
Yeah.
right? But for me, and I was really moved by the kind of stories I heard in Dharmastala, where people are now feeling that they can come up and talk about what's happened. It's a place that was a black hole to media organizations. Even now, those who've covered have been forced to cover. And they're saying that, because of what's happening there, the exhumation, if our stories get told, we are happy. That's as far as justice is
Pooja
concerned.
had a favorite phrase. She
Conspiracy of
insisted
silence.
on putting in her, let me explain, conspiracy of silence broken.
Yeah. But it's really that, right?
Yeah.
There are horrifying stories, but no one's talking about it. Can you imagine?
And also just one quick point I'd like to make here is that, see, there are so many questions that people are now getting to raise. And I think that the district administration and the police are also equally answerable. All those UDR lists, those suicide lists that we were going through, how does a body found on the side of a road get, considered a suicide, right? So this is a legitimate question that people are going to ask. And I think that if the police are standing by the narrative that these are in fact suicides based on their investigation, let them just make that public.
Yeah.
And say, this is what we found, this is why we think it's suicides.
So we will continue to ask these questions. And I reminded you, thank you for being a part of our coverage. But continue to do that because for us, there's no other possibility of going forward without your support. Now we will quickly go to the headlines, Pooja. No, don't say I sprung it on you. Obviously,
Now
I'll
I'm
come to
used
the headlines.
Now I'm used to it. Nag Mohan Das Commission submits 1,766-page report on internal reservation to Karnataka Chief Minister. A statement from the CMO said that a total of 27.24 lakh families and 1.07 crore individuals participated in the survey, and they've said that the Supreme Court has set the criteria for internal reservation as educational backwardness, underrepresentation in government jobs, and social backwardness. Anisha, you've followed this closely.
Yeah, so there are a lot of issues to be considered here. The survey itself was controversial and so on. But what we need to remember here, I think, is that internal reservation is something that some of the most marginalized communities among Dalits have been demanding. And I think that is something that we should all keep in mind when we discuss what internal reservations mean and so on. And
that's not possible without this kind of data.
Yeah. So the survey data is something that I hope the government does make public, because the last survey that they did, they completely, disregarded it and never made it public. So this data, I hope, will be made public, and there are groups among Dalits who are insisting and keeping up the pressure. There is a protest going on in Bangalore right now, demanding that, basically keeping up the pressure on the government to say that, okay, you need to stand by your promise.
Yeah, the Karnataka government's track record, not just the last surveys, a few others have not been great. Yeah. Chennai sanitation workers protest GCC's waste privatization, fear pay cuts and job loss.
Yeah, so I think Shabir has done a video on the Tamil channel. We have got quite a few stories. So most of the GCC zones have been privatized, the last two zones. So when the AIDMK was in power, the DMK was protesting against this privatization. And now they have gone ahead and privatized it.
Cop hacked to death by father-son duo at AIDMK MLA's estate in Tamil Nadu's Tirupur.
Yeah, the Chief Minister has announced 1 crore rupee, I think, as compensation to the family.
Right. Moving to Kerala, reeks of feudalism. CPIM slams Adur Gopalakrishnan's remarks on SC/ST filmmakers. Leena, you've tracked this quite closely. Just put some context for our viewers on this.
I don't think to anyone Adur Gopalakrishna's comment would come as a surprise, because though he's a maker of many international award-winning movies that have premiered at mostly at Venice Film Festival, Cannes and all of that, but this man back in 2023 when he was a chairperson of this Kerala National Institute of Visual Science and Arts, and there was a casteist allegation against its director, he just came out openly, backing this man, reading out his resume as if that resume will somehow, resolve all the allegations against him. And whenever he has been, people have pointed out that his comments or his actions are casteist. He has come out saying that, I have dropped my caste name 20 years when I was 20-year-old, and he has made films like Vidayan, which has made films on caste atrocities and all of that. But still, there is this man who's now coming out openly at this conclave, and when a woman who's quite prominent playback singer and also the Sangeet Nat Academy member, vice chairperson, I guess that she is now, he tried to shut her down, her voice of protest against the state funding projects by backward caste people, and he said that they should look at the criteria and they should cut down the amount that is being granted to them, all of which reeks of casteism, and quite shocked, has shocked everyone who has heard those comments. But this, so far, in the last few years, this has been, this has come to be expected from Adoor Gopalakrishnan and these kind of casts. So this shows, to be very honest, this shows Kerala's progressiveness, the left ideology, that it looks like Kerala doesn't have a casteist society, or that doesn't exist caste bias, but you have to just scratch the surface sometimes to see how caste operates in Kerala, and it's quite shocking when you see that.
Grim turn in women missing case in Kerala is Sebastian, a serial killer. Bindu Padmanabhan, Jane Matthew, Aisha and Sindhu are missing, and the investigators are on a task to ascertain the role of Sebastian, who is the prime suspect. I want to tell our viewers that Dhanya's beat is Kerala, /crime. Dhanya, tell us about
Not just
this.
crime, ghastly crimes.
They all are there.
Yeah. So I mean, I don't know too many details of this, but I think they found one skeleton in his garden, and then they did some more digging, and now he's apparently a rich person. He's a real estate developer or something, and they've now figured that he was basically meeting women and promising them jobs or whatever it is and bringing them home and killing them. So they suspect that 4 women who have disappeared, Bindu, Jane, Aisha and Sindhu, could have been murdered by this man. But like Nandini from our office was asking, there's a lack of imagination clearly, because everybody is just burying in their own houses. I mean, they have not come away from Drishyam movie, I feel. They're just following the same plot.
Or because Kerala houses have huge courtyards, so they can just do it there.
How dark.
I'm not the one committing the crimes, I'm just saying it. Andhra BJP president calls for Guntur's Jinnah Tower to be renamed. Andhra new BJP president PVN Madhav has called for renaming of the tower to do away with oppressive and colonial history.
I think there should be like a tracker. What all BJP wants renamed. I mean, Congress also is renamed, but these people are like just
But
not
Andhra
stopping.
is a state with no infrastructure, not proper capital, no jobs. But this is their priority. This is very important.
They're trying to build the capital and bring jobs, but still this is the priority. Yeah.
Wonderful. Telangana Chief Minister Revanth to lead Dharna in Delhi for 42% BC reservation.
It's happening today.
Yeah. Kaleshwaram judicial probe blames KCR, Harish Rao, Leena Reghunath. This is something we have followed quite closely. You can check out stories on this on our website. Just one national headline before we wrap up. Highest exclusion in Bihar draft roll, women Muslim dominant districts.
Yeah, so this is a story which Scroll put out. It's a story by Ayush Tiwari and Aryan Mehta. So the story is basically about how in certain Muslim dominant districts, after the special intensive revision, the number of voters deleted is much more. I think the Hindu also had a similar analysis today. But the final roll, I think, is coming only today. So there would be more analysis. But this is the analysis of the rolls published on the 1st of August.
Right. That's it for this week, Dhanya. We can start with Prajwal Revanna.
So first, we are going to discuss the conviction of former Hassan MP, Prajwal Revanna. It's a verdict that has shattered the usual norms of political impunity. The former Hassan MP is not just a member of parliament, but he's also the grandson of India's former prime minister. He's a nephew of Karnataka's former chief minister. Despite all that, when a lot of people cynically believe that he would not be convicted, the Special Court for Elected Representatives did find him guilty and has sentenced him to life imprisonment. At the News Minute, we have covered this in great detail from the very beginning. For us, it's not just being any, like just cover a political story and get out of it. We have been meeting those victims, almost all of them, talking to them for many months. And for them too, for the first victim, that is, in whose case this verdict has come, it's a huge relief. Now, this woman, not only was she raped by Prajwal Revanna, but when the tapes first came out, they kidnapped her from her house. Look at the audacity they had. They actually kidnapped her and then made her shoot a video saying that, oh, I was not kidnapped, the tapes are not true. But despite all that, what we saw here was a lot of things. One is that we saw a whole bunch of activists, of people come together to put pressure on the government. That's the first thing, to file these cases against Prajwal Revanna. We saw the Women's Commission of Karnataka play a very proactive role, and we have to give the Women's Commission chairperson the credit for that. Then the police force, the SIT which was formed under BK Singh IPS and a bunch of women officers, they have done stellar investigation as far as this judgment goes, because there is both witness statements and there is scientific evidence which helped the court to give this kind of judgment. And finally, the courage of this woman and her family to stand by their testimony, because we know how difficult that has been.
So I'd just like to make a quick point here. I'd like to start this discussion by saying something, rather quoting the head of the SIT, Mr. BK Singh. When he held a press conference after Prajwal Revanna was sentenced, he said that no matter what investigation the police do, nothing will work if, the victims or survivors don't stick it out. And in this case, so he especially commended the women, for standing up and sticking to their allegations despite the difficulties they faced. And, it's not easy for a woman to know that she was assaulted, first of all. Then her videos of her assault were watched by the whole world. And then again to stand and make all these statements in court, it wasn't easy for them. And even now, the son of this woman, this complainant, when I spoke to him, like I just felt so terrible for the family, because they have, taken this man on and they've paid such a huge price for it.
No, so when Anisha says that it's very difficult for people, I think everybody believes, okay, it's difficult for all women, but I think we should explain a bit further, because we did have a ringside view to what was happening. So most of these women had to be shifted out of their locations. They were all living in and around Hassan, which is exactly where this family is based out of, and they were under threat. Therefore, the first thing the SIT did was to relocate these people. They were all living in Bengaluru for a very long time and in quite challenging circumstances. So remember, there are 4 cases against Prajwal Revanna. This is only the first case. The second case has a mother and daughter duo. Both of them were raped by Prajwal Revanna. That trial is going to begin now. And they were living in a 1-room house with the mother, daughter, the daughter's 2 children and her father. So there were 5 people living, and somebody fell sick in between. It was very difficult, but the SIT got them some small jobs so that they had some money coming in.
Yeah.
So there was a lot done. And for these people to even go back to their villages is a huge question mark, right?
Yeah, so if I could just add context, Anya, before you guys get into the specifics, you did say that this conviction does shatter some sense of political impunity. But the fact is that he got away with this for so long indicates the kind of impunity that he did have. Caste privilege, political privilege, because everybody in Hassan knew about it, as we have said time and again. But he thought he could get away doing it again and again. So it's a kind of a feudal setup that they were running. The entire family, they were running this feudal setup, and that's something I see similar to what's happening in Dharmastala. And people thought that if they speak up against the family, they will be not just stripped of their dignity, but their livelihood, their safety, everything, which is why everybody kept quiet. And what you spoke about, how they had to be relocated, they didn't have jobs, all of that was necessitated by the fact that they were running this.
No, but Pooja, sadly that threat, I think, still continues.
Yeah,
right? I don't think that goes away for
That
the
threat is
family.
never going to go
Not
away,
just for
right?
them, for everybody else living in Hassan, right?
Yeah.
Their influence might have waned a bit, but I won't say it's gone.
So we have been directly speaking to the first family,
The
which
mother
is
and
the mother
daughter.
and the son, in whose case the verdict came, and we've also been speaking to the next family, which is the daughter and the
Mother and daughter, mother and son.
mother and daughter, mother and son.
Hmm.
So I actually sent a voice note to the mother and daughter saying, my Kannada, so they will understand what I'm saying. But they are actually so tense now because their trial is about to begin. And I want to pick a point that you said. He got away with everything, but even in court, he did a lot of things because he thought he could still get away with it. And I think we should discuss that, because a lot of people wouldn't read a judgment, right? They are just going to read news reports. What exactly was Prajwal Revanna's defense in court?
Okay, before I get to that, I want to make one quick point about the SIT, because this family, this mother and daughter, they've been living in Bengaluru for months now, for months. And in between, during their school vacation, her children's school vacation, the daughter's children, they went for a brief while to visit relatives. And the SIT, like she told me that the SIT kept track of them even during that. So they allowed the family to go back and monitored them and basically kept a protective eye on the family just to make sure that nobody gets to them.
Yeah, and the SIT officers, Seema,
Yeah.
Suman, so many of them, like they've taken so much of personal interest in this, and it's been pretty traumatic for them.
Yeah, I can
Because
Yeah.
I mean, this is one story that they've been discussing for a long time but not done. So when the 1,000 videos or 2,000 videos first came, it is an all-women team, right? They were given the task of going through every single video to just see if this Prajwal Revanna's face is visible anywhere, like in reflection, somewhere, right? Because his face is never there. It's only the genitals.
It was a man and woman team,
Yeah.
like male and female
Yeah.
officers.
But mostly
and,
women. But it
Yeah.
was so difficult for them because they had to first go through
Yeah.
these videos, look if this person's name, face is there anywhere. And then, freeze frame, watch, freeze frame, watch.
Rewatch, make notes, rewatch.
Anyway,
make
let's
notes,
quickly go to what was Prajwal Revanna's defense.
Plain and simple. He said it is all politically motivated.
Sure.
And pointed out the timing of the election, pointed out the timing that this entire thing came out, which is a week ahead of elections. And that was that, in the sense that there is a statement that, after the prosecution presents its case in court, the accused is allowed to give their defense. So that statement, he basically makes these 2 points, that it's politically motivated. He denied any wrongdoing. And in court, when the defense argued the case and, defended him, there were so many things that, they tried to discredit or prove wrong, which is also to be expected because he's pleaded not guilty. But they tried to say that the victim never worked for them. They tried to say that the Revanna family did not own the Gannikada farmhouse where all the assault happened. Then they also tried to say that she never lived over there in her house. They used all kinds of tactics to discredit all of her claims. And I think here the judiciary also needs to be appreciated because they've invoked legal principles. They have invoked so many past rulings of various other courts and judgments to say that, okay, you know what? You can believe the victim because she has consistently maintained whatever she has said throughout, from her statement to the police and her statement to the magistrate, and even through the cross-examination, even though she kept breaking down in court, throughout the many times that she had to testify, she stuck to what she said. The overall nature of the allegations and the sequence of events never changed.
But that was supplemented by the scientific evidence.
Yeah.
For example, if you take the Bishop Franco case, the victim stood by her statement, the witnesses stood by their statement, but none of it was taken into account by Judge Gopakumar. Instead, if there had been some scientific or circumstantial evidence, which the prosecution didn't put together in that case because they thought that, okay, we anyway have this many witnesses, why do you need extra evidence, right? But in this case, they had scientific evidence.
So I was outside the SIT office, the CID office for a couple of days when he was being brought in right at the beginning. And I remember every media person and even the police personnel who were deployed there, all of them kept abusing him. They said, we don't even need evidence, but we know he's committed this crime. But there was such a lot of despair. They said, there's no way he'll get convicted. But both of you have read the judgment, and Leena too. Tell us what they actually relied on to pin it on him to make sure he's convicted.
So one is, of course, her testimony. Her son and her son-in-law also spoke about how the kidnapping happened, right? Because that is something which they had denied. But I think the scientific evidence primarily is that, okay, it's not a lot of fun to explain, but basically the videos had a man who's forcing sex on people, and you can basically see his genitals. You cannot see anything else. So they read 2 studies. One was done in Turkey and the other one was done in Japan, where especially when child sexual abuse happens, and there are videos of it, the genitals would be matched from the picture onto the real person. Like there would be small marks which can be seen forensically, right? Moles or whatever.
Pigmentation, color,
color,
shape,
etc.
etc.
Yeah. Yeah. So, so what they asked Prajwal Revanna to stand for the pictures of his genitals.
Which he refused.
He refused.
He
He refused
refused.
to take the pictures, to get the pictures taken. Then the SIT went to, actually the doctors refused to take the pictures, saying that this is against ethics. I cannot force somebody to give these pictures. SIT actually went to court saying that we have to take his genital pictures, and the court allowed it. Then they took the pictures and they matched it, and they found around 10 similarities, I think, in his thigh portion and
Identification
in the
marks.
identification
Yeah.
marks. So that was one major one. The other one was the
Voice
DNA evidence, right?
Also,
The
voice
DNA
sample.
evidence
voice
and
samples,
voice
yes.
samples which they matched to the ones in the videos. And see, and they also went back to the locations where this happened, and based on the videos, they tracked they identified the rooms where this had happened to show that basically this is the spot, this is the room that you're seeing in the videos. So everything from the furnishings and the paint of the walls to all those things, they had to go back. Everything that they had, all the circumstantial evidence was from the videos, right? Apart from the testimonies of the victims and her family members.
Yeah.
So that was, I think,
So
something
like,
that is
let's say I'm doing a video here. You see this red and black
I
behind
don't
me.
think you want to lead
No,
with
I'm
this
just saying
example.
that by the time they reached, they changed some of these things.
Correct.
But the red and black is no longer there. But there were some other things which they couldn't change, which is what?
Which is the permanent furnishings and stuff like that.
I think it's the tiles and other stuff, which is what they finally videographed and recorded and gave. So I think a lot of scientific evidence also what's brought together. And I think now we should bring our lawyer into the conversation. Lawyer Leena, what did you think about the judgment?
So Dhanya, this has been, a great movement of justice for me that gave me a lot of hope when I saw this news break. One, because I've also been a public prosecutor, and in my previous experience as a journalist and heading a legal journalism place, I've seen how SITs are put together, how investigations are done. Let's take, for example, some of the few cases you guys have also followed the actor assault case in Kerala, where the prominent actor has been accused and is still the judgment is about to come in a few weeks, and we know how big and how long that fight for justice has been, even with all kind of evidences, even with the police investigating properly, even with media giving it all the attention necessary, how much that has been difficult. And here we have someone who has been politically very powerful. There is caste acting against the victims or the survivors in this case. There is class acting against the survivors in this case. But still, I was quite aware when the case broke out. So we can say that it has been 1 year of this case in the court, and here comes a judgment that gives a huge relief and so much promise to everyone who's fighting such cases out there, right? With these people have fought against the most powerful person in the state, and still the SIT and the bunch of lawyers who argued on behalf of the government has managed to put together and establish evidence and get this and give us this huge moment of justice in recent times. And look at last week, the Maligaon blast case that we saw coming out from the Mumbai court, and what a disappointment it was when ATS had. This is a case I've studied closely. ATS had presented such great evidences, such great scientific evidences, as you say, like where the blasts were properly linked to the devices from which it was detonated, which was properly linked to the IMEI of the mobile phones, the SIM cards, and there were clear link that connected the people who orchestrated this blast with the blast itself. So with that strong scientific evidence in place that the ATS had put together, they were not able to nail the culprits. And look at this case. So if the justice really wants to happen in this country, there are ways to happen. And if there are ways that it can be scuttled also, it's a lesson that I've learned from what has happened in the last week. But a huge moment for all sexual assault survivors here in the way that the SIT has done this case, and the judiciary has lived up to the expectations.
You gave the example of the Franco case, Dhanya, but there are a couple of others. The Unnao rape case where a BJP MLA was accused, the Katua case also. I think what all of these show is also a certain kind of power imbalance, right? Who are the people who are the complainants or the accused survivors in this case? They are people who worked possibly for the family. They are party workers. So the power imbalance is so stark. And there were videos made of them. Those videos were weaponized to shut them up, into shaming them, right? I am so glad that eventually it is those videos that have come back to bite him. Those have been used as evidence, and I hope that other cases too follow precedence. This becomes a milestone.
So hopefully, the SIT will also crack who's behind the leaks, because those people also need to be punished. We can't undo what has been done, but at least the people who have
No, by
caused the
leak, we don't mean the people who actually brought it to light, but they could have just brought it to light by taking it to the police, not by putting it in pen drives and keeping it in bus stands and parks for everybody to watch. So that is what by the term leak. No, but when Leena was talking, I was thinking, it's all like a puzzle falling into place, right? Everything has to come together. Most of the times, cops don't do good investigation. If they do that, also the prosecution will screw it up in court. Then you need the survivor to really stand by in court, because most times they don't. So, and finally, the judge has to also listen to all this patiently, judge or magistrate or whatever, and then give a judgment which takes in all these sides, right?
For me, the most important part of that piece of that puzzle is the SIT, because they didn't just investigate well, they assured the family. So, many times
like Leena was pointing out, the ATS also did a good investigation.
No, but I'm saying for the family to feel, safe enough to come forth. There are certain people in the government, I don't want to take names, they also went out of their way to make sure the family is as protected as they can be, which is very important, right? Because if you want to scuttle the case, you don't have to legally do something. There are so many other ways in which you can.
There's also political interest.
I don't care.
That the Congress was in power when this case came, because it's a JDS guy who's
But Dhanya, Congress
BJP
also
ally.
put a lid on this for so long. They can't get away saying we did a great
not
job.
the entire Congress. Correct. I think there were division within the Congress.
But are you saying that people wouldn't have known? I mean, they had intelligence. I'm sure even the top guys would have known.
I'm saying we can't say Congress as a whole, because, for example, DK Shivkumar and gang definitely wanted this to come out, considering this is their direct enemy. There were others in the Congress who felt that if we throw stones at a glass house, our glass house also will get
But I hope
stones
now
thrown at.
with this, all glass houses get shattered.
Yeah,
Every single one of them.
And I want to remind again that Prajwal Revanna's tapes were actually given to news channels almost a year before 2024. But the channels who had it perhaps didn't watch it because there was already an injunction order.
But they thought it's a scandal. That's
Yes, because
the problem.
Prajwal went to court and said my tape is going to come out. So everybody assumed, okay, this is another sex tape.
No, and also let's not forget that his face is not visible in any of these videos, right? So even if you run the tapes,
It's
what are you
almost
going
an
to get
admission
out of
of
it?
guilt, actually.
Yeah. All these injunction orders, I feel, are almost like that. Yeah. Okay, so we'll end the discussion with that. But it's been a very hopeful judgment, and we are hoping that in the next 3 cases too, Prajwal Revanna will get convicted. And one last thing is that almost 70 women were identified by the SIT.
Yeah.
But it's really the poorest of the poor, at least 4 of them out of the 5, who came forward to file complaints. That's one thing SIT officers keep telling us.
So in fact, Mr. BK Singh, it was a rather eloquent statement in the press meet that he made. He was saying that, look at the background of the victims who have come forward in this case. They are among the, most powerless people, powerless section of society, and the accused is the exact opposite. He comes from a very influential background. So he pointed this out, and I thought it was a rather eloquent summary of
it's very important,
the case.
right? These are people who are just like cleaning that house.
Yeah.
They are from the village. They're really the poorest of the poor, and they are the ones who at least had for a lot of women, of course. For a lot of women, there are issues in coming out, but their families also stood with them, right? That's important.
Very commendable, yeah.
And for standing up for all of this thing, like, the son I spoke to a few days ago, everybody in their social circle still looks at this woman like as if she's the one who's done something wrong.
Yeah.
And that is what, it was so heartbreaking to listen to him say that, right? Imagine what must be going through his mind.
Exactly.
And his mother, his sisters, his father, grandmother.
No, that's what I was thinking. Why we are sitting here and hailing those women, and rightly so.
The cost
Their society,
is still
the society
there,
they lived in. That's probably one of the reasons why they can't go back, right? Because they have to live with shame for something
And
that's not their fault at all. And that's just how our society functions. So I think it's also a good time for us as a society to introspect, because people watched the videos. It went viral. Nobody was shocked enough to do something about it.
Yeah. Okay. So before I end the first topic, for those who regularly watch us every week, you must have noticed that we are talking a lot more this time. That's because we have changed the sitting arrangements. We are now sitting close to each other. Before we were sitting on either ends of the studio with all these cameras in between us. Now I can actually see Pooja and Pooja can actually see me. So do tell us if that makes a difference, if the conversation is more free flowing like this. And we will make a very strong case to our producer Bhuvan, who did not allow us to do this for a very long time.
We had two barriers between us. One, the phone, and second was barrier. Bhuvan.
Yes. So if you like this
Bhuvan
setup,
is-
write to us at southcentral@thenewsminute.com. We'll give those petitions to Bhuvan. So thank you, Anisha, for joining us. We'll have a new guest for this section. The second discussion of the day is about the national awards. Now, most years when the national awards are announced, there's always a controversy. Someone's happy, someone's not happy. But this year, and I think for the last few years, the controversy has been considerably consistent because it reflects deeper questions surrounding the integrity and the transparency of the national awards, whether they are being driven by political considerations, ideological bias, or by a flawed jury process. So to discuss that, joining us is Miriam Joseph. Miriam has many years of experience in media. She began her career at the BBC, later worked with major broadcasters. She moved to India, joined Excel Entertainment. She was an executive producer and then the CEO. Under her leadership, the company made several acclaimed films like Dawn, Dawn 2, Rock On, Luck by Chance, Karthik Calling. Miriam is now a consulting producer with many companies, but we know Miriam the most because she is also part of the Women in Cinema Collective, or WCC. Thank you very much, Miriam, for joining South Central.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, so we'll jump right into the discussion. The biggest controversy, I guess, is the Kerala story getting the awards.
Yeah.
And the second is about Urvashi herself speaking out, a veteran actor from Malayalam, Tamil, saying that why have I been given only the supporting actor
Correct.
role and why have I been relegated to that? Miriam, you want to pitch in first with your thoughts about all the controversies going on?
Well, what can I say about the Kerala story? As a Malayali, the first thing is that I chose not to watch the film, not even in the interests of research or journalism or any of those things. I think I was put off very early on when the marketing and promotions of the film said that 32,000 Malayali women had been forcibly converted and sent to the deserts of Arabia as ISIS slaves. That was a lie. We know that. The Supreme Court finally came out and told the makers of the film that that was a lie and that it needed to be taken out of their promotions and that a disclaimer to that effect be put into the film. I think when the highest court in the land says that the makers of a film are lying to increase its reach, it's pretty obvious that this film is made for purposes other than just entertainment. That it's a propaganda film, and that's what it's been called rightly by most people. Why the jury decided to give it this award is anybody's guess. I would say that it's part of a systematic program to vilify Muslims, to vilify Kerala, which is a state that stands solidly as an anti-BJP state. So I don't think there's that much more to say about it. It's a sad day for cinema when the quality of films being regarded for the highest honor in the land is considered for reasons other than cinematic ones. So, I mean, there's nothing to say. This has happened before. The Kashmir Files was also awarded similarly. So this is just another step in a pattern of propaganda films being loaded, given tax-free status, and being pushed by the state to further their particular agenda.
I'm one of those unlucky people who watched that movie for purposes of research. Kerala Story.
yeah.
And I went first day, first show. There were only few people in the theatre, and I thought, okay, nobody's going to watch this crap. But it became a huge hit in the next 3-4 days, as in people started flocking to the theatres. Narendra Modi himself endorsed the movie while he was here in Karnataka for the election, campaign. The problem with the movie, I think the person who would have been the most surprised at the award is the cinematographer of the Kerala Story. He would be like, what the hell? Why did I just win the award? I mean, you forget it's propaganda. You forget it's everything else. What is there in that movie to give an award for? I don't understand. For its cinematography, it is so violent. First thing, it is such a violent movie. There are these very graphic rape scenes for which the cinematographer must have put a lot of interest on which angle to shoot it from. Other than that, I don't even know why in any way. And I want to ask you something, Miriam, that look, we can talk about political interests and all that, but Ashutosh Gaurikar, I mean, I don't know if I'm pronouncing it correct. He was the person who was heading the awards this time, right? And a lot of people, like one of the members, I think, on the jury was also someone who's associated with the left in Kerala. So the jury members are credible.
But he was a dissenting voice from what I know on Kerala Studies.
Who?
The person from Kerala,
obviously.
Pradeep Nair, right?
Yeah.
So he did dissent, but his dissent was overruled, of course.
Yeah. So there is a jury, right?
There is a jury. There is a jury, and I think there are 4 juries that look at 4 different regions, the North, South, East, West jury, and their recommendations then go up to the central jury, and the central jury makes the final decisions. So, I mean, I find it really difficult to I don't really know what to say. You know what I mean? As a filmmaker who enjoys good films and would like to see the quality of Indian films be raised in general, to see the state awarding what is a propaganda film, but what otherwise I've heard is a pretty mediocre film in terms of all its other crafts. Just, it's a cynical exercise and a sad one too. You know, I saw a brief interview with Mr. Gowarikar where he said that the cinematography award was given because they had come with pure images. I don't know what a pure image is, and I would love to be educated on that. I'm not sure what Mr. Gowarikar meant by that, but he in his good sense saw fit to stamp this decision to make this the best film. I don't think there's anything more to say other than this was a deliberate, non-cinematic, very political decision being made, and it's a shame to see filmmaking be pulled into that kind of thing.
I spoke for 2 minutes.
Like I said, I haven't seen the film.
No, I spoke for 2 minutes explaining how the movie is, but I think Miriam put it correctly, pretty mediocre. I don't think it was even pretty mediocre.
Yeah, I think they're all being very generous by whatever little I've seen. But I think at this point, the National Awards faces a very existential question, right? Whether it is there as a propaganda vehicle to push certain ideology, or is it there to celebrate artistic excellence, cinematic merit? What is the purpose of National Awards? I think that's the question, because like you rightly said, Kashmir Files has also been awarded, and ironically, it has been awarded something on national integration, best movie in national integration. A movie as polarized, divisive, violent, deliberately violent as that has been given an award like that. So
but
I think
Kashmir Files, at least there would be one section of people who think that it stemmed from something
I'm
bit
not
real.
denying, but I'm saying what is the purpose? How has it been
Yeah.
portrayed?
Okay, Sukanya, who's watching our episode, wants me to add something about the cinematography. She's saying, she's listening to the episode and sending me these texts. She's saying that they did not even show one Padambori or Chai Kada in Kerala Story, which means that they had no clue about Kerala.
And the accent of the lead, who's supposed to be half Malayali herself.
By the way, Sudipto Sen is very upset that woman, Ada, did not get the Best Actor, Actress award. And he's like, why was she not awarded? You want to jump in, Leena?
Yeah, well, there are a couple of points that I wanted to bring in. Look, one good thing that has come out of all this is that Instagram is filled with memes and all kind of jokes on on this story, on the Kerala story, and how that lead character has portrayed a Malayali woman on screen. So at least when all these things happen, we Malayalis get to have our laughs out of it. But maybe we should all look at how, in Nazi Germany, Hitler used cinema to as a propaganda tool, and how similar things happening in India, and how all kinds of the meritorious awards are falling prey to that and trying to platform this. And this is coming from someone like Ashutosh Gowarikar, who has himself as Jodha Akbar's portrayal of Jodha and Akbar, which is again story with a lot of historical manipulations, of course, but still showed a story of two people of different faiths coming together, and faced a lot of BJP anger because of the portrayal. Deciding to award this, and the jury deciding to award this. But national awards over time, Dhanya, has rewarded mediocre talent, Then I think that we'll have to take exception with SRK getting it for Jawan. Now, Jawan is a movie I've watched in theatre. Very rare movies I go to watch in theatres. Very rarely, maybe one a year is an exception. And when it comes to Bollywood, and when it comes to recent SRK movies, even by being a diehard fan of SRK, my expectation is low. There's nothing below that low it is. Even though we're saying that it's an Atlee movie, when Dhanya asked me what was the story, Leena, I really couldn't even recall those movies. It hasn't even been a year.
No, Miriam, one thing is definitely Leena has watched Dawn and Dawn too.
Yeah.
Your movies. Yeah, because she's a diehard Shah Rukh Khan fan.
Thank you.
Having said that, look, let me tell this. In this Jawan movie, there is a couple of portrayals that were very difficult for BJP government. Like it portrays the Kafil Khan episode where the Adityanath government was blamed for the UP, the bad handling of oxygens, which resulted in the death of kids in UP, and Kafil Khan was sent to prison. The same is portrayed. Many other corruption schemes are portrayed that the BJP government has been audit about, but also the corruptions that the Congress government has during the Congress government time is also portrayed there. But just that the way it was marketed, that movie, was a clear thing of how his son was portrayed, and Shah Rukh had to stand up and fight that fight in so many ways to get his son justice. So that was a callback. There was a serious callback to that. Though the movie panders to all kind of, nationalistic feelings, maybe that you can blame on it. But still, if Emburan raised the BJP's anger in certain ways, then Jawan too, and SRK too has invited the anger in certain ways. So SRK to have lost out on national awards when he did good acting in at least two movies, that I think that Chak De and that other where he played an ISRO scientist. I think there are the only two good acting credits that we can give him. And he lost out to very bad Stonish portrayal by Saif Ali Khan, another actor I really admired as a very young college going person. But that acting had nothing in it, though. Hum Tum was a great watchable movie at that point
Leena,
of
stop.
time.
This is not a podcast on Shah Rukh Khan and his movies. You have to. We have to stop fans. Like literally, physically stop them. No. You have to stop.
Yeah, there seems to be a formula that I see, right? One is jingoism. That is one short
or
way,
you have
perhaps.
pissed off somebody like Shah Rukh Khan. So let's just do some one
because
good
Uri
deed.
won.
Yeah.
Uri was at best a mediocre movie. I think that was the last I had to go to a theatre and watch, and it was terrible in 2019. Horribly made movie. I don't think it was even cinematography was good, but it did win because the national mood was trying to keep Pulwama and Balakot in limelight, so it did win. And of course, Kashmir Files. So I think that is one short way. Filmmakers are watching. You want national award? Make a jingoistic movie.
So Miriam, I have one thing to ask you. I just want to summarize what Leena was trying to say is that Shah Rukh Khan has done better movies, but
This is not the movie he deserved.
But the fan Leena took so many words and sentences that it was not.
And also she's a fan of Saif Ali Khan, but she didn't like him in this movie.
Yeah, that we understood all that. So Miriam, I want to ask you that, a lot of the awards for cinema is given by private parties, like from Filmfare to now there are so many. Right? I mean, it's their state to state, the big magazines are giving, newspapers are giving, organizations are giving. But the national awards were always seen as, okay, this is something to take seriously.
Aspirational.
Right? Yeah, aspirational. Yeah. I mean, it has always seen controversies. For example, someone who people thought would win the award wouldn't, or talent-wise, or the movie-wise. But the ideological shift to it, does it make the national awards less and less inspirational? Aspirational, sorry.
I mean, I'd like to think not, but I think if this continues as a pattern, that's what's going to happen. Anybody who is a real fan of good cinema is going to stop taking the national awards seriously. I think that, and Shah Rukh didn't even get the award on his own, Leena? He had to share it, which must be galling. I'm galled on his behalf. Regarding Urvashi Chechi, I genuinely do not understand why she wasn't awarded as the main actress and was only given a supporting actress award. If I were conspiracy-minded, I would say that was another knock on Kerala and on women. It's another thing to notice that the main jury had no women on it. It's 6 or 7 men. I think that's also something that the government ought to look at. You know what I mean? Having a slightly more representative jury when they're looking at cinema from across this country. What is there to be said? It's really disappointing. It's really sad that the nation's premier awards have been corralled in the service of jingoism and divisiveness. It's not just really about Kerala. It is about where we're going as a nation. And I think that's dangerous, not just for good cinema, but just for us as a forward-thinking, progressive 21st century nation. This doesn't bode well at all.
But Dhanya, the controversies have been there for a while. I mean, much before BJP came to power. And yes, what's happening, propaganda films are being rewarded like this, apparently because they uphold a larger cause, is very worrying. But in 2006, 2007, this is the 53rd National Awards. Jury member Shamali Banerjee had gone to court, in fact, because the allegation was that the winners are pre-selected and they're all politically motivated decisions. Influence of bureaucrats and ministers was also alleged. So the point I'm trying to make is when there is a private, like you said, when there's a private award function, Filmfare, IFA, the regional ones, there is also the same complaints that come forth. I think once Amir Khan missed out for Dangal, and the reason given was that he doesn't care about awards anyway, so why should he be given? But the larger point is this is the government award. This is also given using taxpayers' money. It symbolizes something much more than just an award. So there has to be that much more transparency. Second problem is the disproportionate importance given to Hindi cinema, right? I was reading somewhere, I was trying to pull up the data when you thought I was not paying attention. I was. I read that about 30 to 35% of the best film, award has gone to Hindi movies. Does that mean Hindi cinema produces better movies than, say, Malayalam, Marathi, Bengali movies? No, that's not true. Simply because of the kind of attention and the jury members who are probably there. That's been given importance. So these are, I think, deeper issues that we need to look at, or national awards will not mean much going forward.
This News Minute will always make it about Hindi. About Bollywood.
But we're South.
Leena has been quiet because we called her out on her, being a fangirl. On being a fangirl. But Leena, you have anything to add?
No, I think that overall, looking at what the national awards have been putting out in these years, that we have come to expect very little from all these kind of awards that the government hands out, and all these one-person sponsored Filmfare and all of that, awards itself, is very subjective. What some people look at as art and what some people consider as a lower form of art, and everything has its own different kinds of scale. And so there is going to be, anyways, with awards, there is going to be a lot of controversy, but this level of fall is quite unfortunate.
Miriam, I also want to touch upon the film policy conclave, which happened in Kerala. That's also something very important. Over the last week, we had the film policy conclave. This started because of the WCC's primarily their demand that there has to be a film policy in Kerala. Then there was a HEMA committee report which came out last year, and a lot of other organizations, also smaller ones, have come and said that there should be a film policy. So what happened, Miriam? Because unfortunately, most of the headlines from that conclave were on Adur Gopalakrishnan and his casteist, misogynist speech, which he's now saying, I didn't mean it like that, but he did. At the conclave, was what you all looked for being achieved? Is the policy looking like something which would promise a safer workplace for women and everybody else?
Well, this conclave was meant to be part of a long process of Kerala coming to a 21st century film policy. I think from our point of view as WCC, I think we're quite happy that at least the Kerala government is engaging in a process that has so far been consultative. They have talked to 75 different organizations within the Kerala industry, from junior artists to outdoor workers to, drivers to directors to exhibitors, distributors, producers, everybody. They have, through this process, which is now almost a year and a half old, been trying to do some work. And the government does seem willing to have a transparent process and to talk to all the stakeholders. Whether we will get a good policy or not is yet to be seen, because the government is yet to come out with a draft of a policy. But over the 2 days of the conclave, there were, I think, 9 or 10 different sessions, each looking at different areas. One looking at labor, one looking at film and the law, one looking at gender inclusion, AI, the future, theatrical exhibition. So, they covered a whole host of subjects, and they invited people from across the industry to come and speak, to listen. They had open forums at the end of the day where anybody could make their points known. So as a process, I think as WCC, we've been quite happy that the government has been, has put its best foot forward, I think, so far. What the policy will say is yet to be seen. The unfortunate nature of Mr. Adur Gopalakrishnan's remarks at the closing ceremony, again, Mr. Gopalakrishnan is not a first-time offender. Just a little while ago, he had to resign his position as the chairperson of the K.R. Narayanan Film Institute in Kerala for pretty much the same reasons. Speaking to and about women and SC/ST communities in a disparaging fashion, in an entirely arrogant and hubristic fashion. I think that if Mr. Gopalakrishnan meant to say that all people receiving public funds should have training, then that's what he should have said. But he very specifically spoke about SC/ST communities and women needing training, as if men don't. He made some other very unfortunate comments through this speech. He talked about how the whole K.R. Narayanan Institute fiasco was a terrible thing, and that terrible things had happened to him and Mr. Shankar Mohan, the erstwhile director of the institute, and that vested interests were there trying to take him out. He made comments about why he thought the delegates' fees for the IFFK, the Kerala Film Festival, ought to be hiked so that, the hoi polloi couldn't come in and only people who were cinematically educated could get into these things. So there is a kind of underlying elitism, sexism, feudalism, casteism that has been bubbling out of Mr. Gopalakrishnan. And it is a real shame, because he has been one of our greatest exports from Kerala as a filmmaker. extremely talented, extremely influential. And so when a person in his position makes those kind of comments, they carry weight. I'm very glad, though, that the minister, Mr. Saji Cherian, righted that wrong immediately on stage and said that that was not the case. Mr. Gopalakrishnan also, in an interview the very next morning, doubled down on what he had said and then proceeded to insult the current vice chairperson of the Sangeet Natak Academy, Pushpavati, and spoke about her in terms that, I mean, really, it's astonishing that anyone speaks like that today. He said, "Who is she? How dare she speak while I'm speaking? Is the conclave a place where any woman from the streets can come in and have an opinion?" Again, I don't really know what to say to people like that. You know what I mean? I realize there's no point getting angry because this kind of thinking is backward, and it's very difficult to engage with somebody who doubles down on that. You know, he didn't for a second think that he ought to reflect. He didn't for a second think that there might be a point, that he might have chosen the wrong words or the wrong way to make a point. If what he meant to say was that public money shouldn't be wasted, there are many ways to do that without being deliberately insulting of so many communities and people. So, yeah, very, very unfortunate because it overshadowed what I think was a reasonably good conclave where the film industry managed to get together with the government to talk about a policy that is going to affect us for the next 30 or 40 years. Important things were being said. So I do wish that the media will now maybe report on what actually came out of the conclave and discuss some of those issues because they are important ones. They affect thousands and thousands of workers in Kerala. Malayalam cinema in the last 5 to 10 years has managed to grow out of its small regional confines and become something that people not just across this country but across the world watch. And it's a real shame that this state that is known to be a progressive one is represented by people who do not hold progressive thoughts, sadly.
When Mariam was explaining this incident, Dhanya and Mariam, what came to my mind is when I was reporting some time back on WCC and the issues that it was raising, and all those various senior directors tried to blame it as something that some modern progressive woman was having problems with the industry, and they tried to explain it to me as a journalist when I was interviewing them, how when they were shooting during the time of senior actors like Shobna, Revati and Urvashi and of that this was like a family and how they all protected the woman. And the more they explained, the more it was evident how the space that they called family space and all was unsafe working place for women. And none of the men saw it as a woman's workplace where she should have a voice and she should have certain kind of securities and a decent washroom and a changing room and all of that provided. And it was, sitting through those interviews was like such eye-opening to let this man explain their sexism and their feudalism out to you, and reveal themselves while pointing all the blame that was happening on the shoulders of some progressive modern women who come and suddenly try to tell that this is our workplace and we need the dignity here.
I think myself and all the members of WCC are very happy to call ourselves progressive modern women because that's what we are. We're also women who just have a bit of self-respect. So when we set out into a work world, we expect to be treated like everybody else. And that is all we're asking for. We're not asking for special treatment. We're not asking to be, carried around like princesses. None of us wants that. Again, I'm not surprised by the older gentlemen who speak that way. They have a vested interest in keeping the system the way it is. because change means they have to change practices of a lifetime. Change means that producers will now have to be more responsible for their workforce. Change means that industry associations and unions will actually have to start advocating for their workers. You know, I think it's astonishing that nobody in the Malayalam film industry thinks it is a serious conflict of interest. The trade union or the Federation of Trade Unions is run by producers. I mean, it's astonishing that no one thinks this is a conflict of interest and should have been questioned a long time ago. I mean, one of the points of discussion in the labor panel at the conclave was about working hours. So the standard working hours for the best part of the last 20 years in Kerala has been a 15-hour workday, which means that all the, HODs, everybody works for 15 hours in a day, which means that the lower rung workers, the production workers, the outdoor workers, the ADs, all of them end up having a 17, 18-hour workday. I mean, in the 21st century, is this really the kind of place that Kerala wants to uphold? Is this really the kind of way we want to work? Even in Bombay, a 12-hour workday is considered standard and has been for 20 years. So I think that, but these are issues that are coming up. In fact, FEFCA, the federation, talked about the fact that they are now going to make it a 12-hour workday, finally join the rest of the world into the 21st century. And so I'm glad that they're doing that. But there are so many other issues that need to be looked at. Change is always hard for the people who run things, because it means that their power and their influence is being challenged, and they will have to also share the space, share the money, share the profits, share the good times. But us modern progressive women are quite happy to be at the forefront of that charge. And, it was actually quite edifying at the conference to hear both the chief minister and the culture minister speak about the fact that we were there at the conclave because of WCC's efforts, because of the fact that we have continuously for the past 7 or 8 years brought these things up. And while for a long time the media and general society focused only on the kind of prurient sexual harassment part of it, I think everybody's quite embarrassed by the fact that the Malayalam film industry is continuing to run practices that are feudal. So here's to change. I am keeping hope up that the Kerala government will not disappoint us, that they will give us a policy that thinks about the workers and that looks to make the Malayalam film industry like every other decent workspace, civilized workspace. So here's hoping. Fingers crossed.
Just before wrapping up, I want to add that for those who didn't understand the Adur discussion, he had a grouse that the KSFDC, which is the Kerala State Film Development Corporation, was giving 1.5 crores to women. Certain women were selected and directors from SC/ST communities to make movies. And the joke is, he's saying, why are we giving 1.5 crores? This is not to make a superstar movie. Let us give 50 lakhs. I wanted to ask him, which superstar comes for 1 crore rupees? I really want to know. It was not making sense in any ways. And so Adur's speech was, there's a saying in Malayalam, Paattu nannavumból, Swaram nannavumból paattu nirthanam. I almost felt like, so when your voice is good, you should stop singing. Like Miriam was saying, he's someone who's changed the course of Malayalam cinema. He's internationally acclaimed. Swaram nannavumból paattu nirthanam is what I would like to tell Adur Gopalakrishnan.
Can I add one more very quick point, just so that people who don't know about the films that have been made under this scheme for women, it's 2 films a year for women at a 1.5 crore budget each. That budget is given out and administered by the KSFDC. It's not handed out in a sack to women for them to go and spend as they please. The state's Film Development Corporation is the corporation that manages that budget. And just to be clear, 3 of the 6 filmmakers have won Best Film awards. The first one, Nishiddo, won the state's Best Film Award. Victoria last year won the Fipreschi Best Debut Award. These are not women who don't know what filmmaking is. They don't need training. They are filmmakers. They have gone through a rigorous 4-stage audition process before their scripts were finalized and chosen. So this is not some, handout given by some tambaran to some worker to go and do something in play. This is administered by the state and run well, in as much as the selection process is concerned. And so somebody ought to explain to Mr. Gopalakrishnan that if that is the insinuation he's making, then he's insinuating that Mr. Shaji and Karun, God rest his soul, who was the head of the KSFDC all this while these 6 films were made by women, doesn't know what he's doing and is handing out money to random women, So maybe he might rethink that when he's told that he was not only insulting the state organization, but also his dear friend, Mr. Shaji and Karun. And what he didn't do was insult women, because these women have all made films, many of them very highly awarded. So I just wanted people to know that. These are good films.
Okay, since we're talking about trauma, and the price that people have to pay for abuse, like I was just thinking that, perhaps if those who are interested could read The Body Keeps the Score. It's a book by an American psychiatrist called, I don't know how to pronounce his name, so I'm just going to give it my best shot. His name is Bessel van der Kolk. But anyway, go by The Body Keeps the Score. So he's an American psychiatrist, and he studied trauma extensively. And, he was part of the team or early psychiatrists who developed the PTSD diagnosis and so on. And he worked extensively with people who faced, adults who faced abuse as children, sexual abuse and physical abuse, and how trauma basically affects what it does to people. So if anybody's interested, that would be my recommendation this time round.
Shaji and Karun passed away recently, but we had done a very long story into how KSFDC was being mismanaged by sort of harassing these women and all the others who got the contracts for the movies. So please do read that story by Lakshmi Priya. You can also understand the controversy and why Adur was completely wrong. Okay, now we will go to the recommendations. Pooja, what is your recommendation?
So, no, I'm a little late in the day to recommend this, but Empire, the podcast Empire, I want more people, so I'm just putting this out there, William Dalrymple and Anita Anand. But I also have a physical event recommendation. If you're in Bangalore, you're planning to visit, then do go and check out the flower show that happens twice a year, Republic Day and August, Independence Day. For those of us who grew up in Bangalore, don't make that face. It's a fun thing. Take your family, take your friends, go there. It's a part of Bangalore's heritage. Much before it was all about breweries and malls. I'm not complaining. Bangalore has the best breweries, but
you're a plant lover. You're okay with flowers being.
So while you're there, also go and check out the nursery at Lal Bagh. They have amazing plants for very reasonable price, and also visit Siddhapura. Yes, don't cut this part.
Bhuvan is thinking how to put recommendation link for plants at Lal Bagh.
I will send you the direction to go there.
Miriam, what is your recommendation for the week?
My recommendation is a mainstream Bollywood film called Dhadak 2. It is in theaters at the moment. It is an adaptation of the Tamil film Pariyerum Perumal, made by Shazia Iqbal, a woman filmmaker from Bihar. The fact that this young lady has managed to get a mainstream commercial film that talks in very strong terms about caste, I think is a miracle in itself. So I think everybody should go out there and watch it. Shazia is an extremely smart girl and somebody who deserves, I think, a cinema lover's time and money. And I think that film, given that it's about such an important subject, while also being a beautiful love story, is worth everybody's time. So please do go watch Dhadak 2.
In fact, while we were doing the podcast, Priya Ramani, the journalist, was messaging me saying, why haven't you guys done a review on Dhadak 2? That it's completely overshadowed by another movie which released. I don't know what that is. But she said you all should review. It's such a great movie.
Why are you checking WhatsApp messages when you're shooting?
Because I can multitask. Leena?
Okay, I'm going to recommend the caravan cover story of this month on this Bihar ECI thing. It's by Sagar, one of my favorite long-form writer. Rather, I'd recommend everyone to look forward to what Sagar is talking and writing about this, because he's someone who understands Bihar and caste very closely. Second would be a recommendation that needs absolutely no recommendation. Because we were talking films and all of those, I remember Hassan Minhaj's Patriot Act and how it made fun of film awards, elections and everything Indian. So I would also recommend that.
Oh, can I make an additional one? Come on. Since you mentioned stand-up, I watched Veer Das's latest one. I don't know what it's called. I thought it was very well written, very wittily written.
So you have to give a link to
intelligently.
Veer Das's latest show. I don't know what
Again,
it's called.
doesn't need recommendation, but it's very well written, I thought.
Okay, so my recommendation is that you follow certain journalists during this election season. Sumedha Mittal of Newslaundry, Ayush Tiwari of Scroll and the Hindu's data team, because they are putting out a lot of stories on the special intensive revision or SIR process in Bihar. Now that's very important for the southern states too, because we are going to see elections in Tamil Nadu and Kerala in 2026, and we are being told that the SIR process will start in these states too. So we should all be aware of what's happening, what the complaints are about, what the allegations are about. My second recommendation is this podcast. It's got multiple episodes, but you can listen to what you want. It's 11-minute episodes. It's called The History of Rome. I like listening to history podcasts. So 11-minute episodes on some king and some prince. It's quite nice. You can see it on Spotify. And
While you're there on Spotify, go and like this podcast.
South Central, which we told you during the beginning of the show. Miriam, you have to go now and like South Central on Spotify. And thank you very much for joining
I
us.
will do that. Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you, Leena. Thank you, Pooja. Thank you to our producer, Bhuvan Malik, production assistant, Ajay. Thank you to Yana, who does our social media, and Sukanya Shaji, the ears of this show.